The NBA has always been known for having overly hyped players for odd reasons. Alex Caruso, Taco Fall, or Austin Reeves. But if there was one player who was really getting a lot of attention, it was Lonzo Ball. Ball was looking like the next All-Star in college. People believed he had a lot to prove in the league and wanted to find a way to pick him up. However, getting Lonzo would mean you would either have a diehard or terrible fan. LaVar Ball has always been known to be one of the most outspoken individuals in the basketball world. The man will always back his sons up and say some of the craziest things you will ever hear. Ball was also known as a great entrepreneur. In 2016, he created the famous clothing line Big Baller Brand, where business started booming once Lonzo Ball entered the league. I'm sure you knew about Big Baller Brand, but did you know that LaVar Ball had also created his own basketball league? Today, we will look at this league LaVar had built and watch how it went from a relatively popular discussion to rock bottom. One debate that has constantly flooded sports people's minds is whether or not high school athletes can get paid. College athletes don't get paid, and they're highly talented athletes. So why can't high school athletes get paid either? Well, if there was one man who was against this, it was the one and only LaVar Ball. He wanted to start paying high school athletes, which prompted him to create the Junior Basketball Association, also known as the JBA. LaVar created the league back in December 2017 and announced how it would be fully funded by Big Baller Brand, meaning all players would be getting a portion of Big Baller Brand's income. LaVar had made a promise to all players by telling them they would get paid $3,000 per month and that 60% of their jersey sales and other endorsements would go into their bank account. That sounds like a good deal, right? Well, that's what those players thought. Now that we know about the league's creation, let's look at what it consisted of. First off, let's look at the JBA's logo. The NBA's logo features Lakers legend Jerry West. So who would the JBA feature? Well, surprisingly, it was also a Lakers legend, one of the best guards in their franchise. He was an incredible shooter, but an even better passer. His name is Lonzo Ball. Oh, come on. Besides himself, did you really think LaVar would put anyone else but one of his sons? It was obvious. Lonzo Ball would end up being the JBA's logo. Looking at it, it could have been a better one. It reminds me of the 2K Pro-Am logo with the color schemes. Now, why don't we look at each team in the JBA and see how this league was set up? In terms of rules, the JBA did not differ from standardized basketball. It was basically the same thing. As for teams, the league had 10 different teams in relatively popular cities: Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia, and Seattle. If you have yet to notice, I did not say any of the teams' names, and that's because every JBA team was called the Ballers. If you're associated with Big Ball Brand, all of you would be Ballers. The players were also required to wear the brand's merchandise. Each team consisted of 10 players, and the minimum and maximum age a player could have been was 16 to 21. There were also other exceptions, but it was infrequent. Regarding teams getting players, it differed from how GMs drafted and signed. The JBA would host a tryout before the season started, and the best players would be picked up and added to one of the teams. The league also stated that players who didn't make the cut would be able to work for Big Baller Brand, so they wouldn't leave empty-handed. Two of the three Ball brothers would also participate in this league. LiAngelo and LaMelo Ball played in the first and only season. Speaking of the season, why don't we take a look at how the 2018 JBA season went. The 2018 JBA season would have its first games on July 21st, 2018, and finish on August 12th. It was a relatively short season. Each team played a total of 8 games, and the team that had the best record by the end of the season was the Los Angeles Ballers, who had both LaMelo and LiAngelo Ball. The team that had the worst record would be the Philadelphia Ballers, who went 1-7. The JBA would have both a 3-point and dunk contest and would also have an all-star game. A man by the name of Brandon Willis would win the 3-point contest as he beat LiAngelo Ball. The dunk contest featured 0 Ball brothers, and Houston's player Nicholas Lovelace won. As for the All-Star game, the West beat the East 202 to 189. LiAngelo Ball had 39 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists as he was rewarded as the MVP of the game. As for the playoffs, the Los Angeles Ballers were just too unstoppable as they plowed through each round and defeated Seattle to go on and win the first and only JBA title. While that was the only season of the JBA, it wasn't over yet. After the JBA finals, the league had created its own team for an international league. Both LaMelo and LiAngelo were on the team. That season began in September 2018, and the team played quite a few games. They were supposed to continue playing in 2019, but because of a fight between LiAngelo Ball and an opponent's player, teams who were scheduled to play them canceled the match, and LiAngelo eventually would leave the group. After LiAngelo's departure, a few others went with him, and this is where the JBA found themselves in a bit of trouble. While the JBA was able to finish one entire season, it was also their last season as the league would get exposed. For one, all the promises and claims they made to the players were lies or had a huge catch. The JBA claimed it would pay for flights and hotels for every team and player, but what they didn't mention was that there would be times where players and staff would be stranded at the airport for hours waiting for a flight. This is precisely what happened to a couple of teams who complain about these problems. Not only that, but the league also claimed that players would earn 60% of jersey sales. Those jerseys, which were set to be priced at $80, ended up not happening. Players never had any sales, meaning no money went into their pockets. The league was also starting to get exposed by high school basketball athletes. In 2018, multiple high school players began leaking DMs where the JBA had privately reached out to them on Instagram, trying to make them join their league. Now granted, this isn't the worst way to attract players, but the only problem was that they did this with hundreds of players and got rejected every single time, and it was a horrible look. The JBA also got exposed due to staff and players having physical fights and relationships. In July of 2018, when the season had just started, Chicago Bears head coach Edward Denard reportedly bullied his forward Montrell Dixon. During a timeout late in the game, he had quote-unquote used his fist to shove Dixon in the chest and later knocked his forehead against the side of Dixon's face. Video and audio had also captured Chicago's coach verbally abusing this poor guy. This was, again, a terrible look for the league, and what was the JBA's response? Nothing but pure silence. As bad as it all was, at least the league had people tuning into games, right? No, quite the opposite. This is what the average JBA game looked like. It was basically a ghost town. A good reason why is because ticket prices started at $40. $40 to watch a high school level basketball game is insane. Now, as bad as all this was, one man had brought plenty of attention to the league for respecting them: Kanye West. When JBA's USA team went to Belgium, Ye was there and was supporting the team at the game. People started tweeting about this and spreading the word, which was good for the league as it got attention. But sadly, it wasn't enough to keep the league alive. Going back to JBA's games, there was another reason why nobody watched them. If you wanted to watch this game on TV, it was only available on Facebook Live. No, I am not joking. Facebook Live was the only place you could have watched these guys play, which is beyond sad. The JBA kept getting exposed in 2018 as one of LA's former players, Brandon Phillips, decided to speak out and tell the JBA that he never got the full payment the league promised. He regretted giving up his basketball career for a $1,000 check. And sadly, he wasn't the only player who gave up their college career for this league. After the league had officially been discontinued, former players would be left unemployed and with just $3,000 in their pocket that they got from the league. They could have had a college scholarship but took the wrong route. The only players who were safe from all this were LiAngelo and LaMelo Ball. But can you blame those kids? It's like they were making an investment and thought this could have been something big. But little did they know that wasted time and money as it was a massive scam. I'm not sure what these kids are up to today, but it sucks that they had spent all this time and effort just to have been left with absolutely nothing.